let's pull up Linus's video on this new controller, because apparently there is a new controller that's on par with like the Elite series controllers, which has me very interested. So let's do this. I'll eat some of my salad and then we'll loop into some gaming news stuff and then we'll wrap it up. Sound good?
On paper, this is a king tier gaming controller offering an unprecedented 1-2 punch of cross compatibility and durability. And yet, it comes from a company that I only just heard of when they made the news for offering replacement analog sticks for the Valve Steam Deck. It comes from GuliKit, and they're calling it the KingKong 2 Pro Controller. But what makes it so special? Aside from the fact that it comes with a nice little carrying case.
I haven't heard of these
guys. I love
that,
actually. Nice little hard case if you like to travel or just keep your belongings safe when they're in storage. Although I can immediately see some ways that it could be improved. There's no pass-through for charging, so you can't charge your controller while it is inside the case. And also, I'm less impressed now. This hinge seems like it's not long for this world. But the same cannot be said of the controller itself. On the surface, it looks just like an Xbox Series X controller. It's even got the same little textured dimples on the back, although there are some switch buttons added to it. We'll talk more about that later. But it's what's under the hood that counts. The KingKong 2 Pro, instead of using cheap potentiometer-based joysticks, uses Hall effect joysticks. So that means that unlike the PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, Xbox Series, and even the Valve Steam Deck, the KingKong 2 Pro's joysticks should last much longer. The reason for this is that potentiometer joysticks are kind of like us. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when they will expire. They use
That's dark. I love it. I love it. I love it. Rocky, I don't know. I haven't even signed like the paperwork and stuff for this, so I don't know if I should like tell you, you know? I don't know.
2 potentiometers, one in the x-axis, one in the y-axis. And a potentiometer, if you're not familiar, is a variable resistor. So what happens is as you move the potentiometer, the voltage readout changes.
When as in 2 months after purchase. Am I the only one that like doesn't have a ton of like their stuff breakdown? Like I feel so weird. I just never have this issue, but everybody's like, yeah, no, I've been through 6 PlayStation controllers. I've been through 1 PS5 controller, and I'm pretty sure it's because Lachlan threw it across the room and it probably broke the joystick. Other than that, like I haven't had controllers just like break down. Like maybe I'm just like super gentle, but it's like when I was talking about the Edge, like Rex and those guys are like, oh, the Edge is amazing because you can swap out the joysticks. Can I? Oh God. Just like this. You see, I can like pull this lever up and then can slide out and replace the actual joysticks. Super cool, right? I've never, except for that one time Lockie threw it, I've never felt the need for this feature. But some people are like, dude, this is going to save me so much money on controllers. Like, what? What am I doing wrong that I'm so gentle? You know, like, what am I doing?
Changes, indicating to your PC or to your console where the analog stick is. The problem is that potentiometers have moving, wearing parts. And when the metal contacts wear out, it can actually change those resistance values. That's what's known as joystick drift. So your joystick might be sitting in a centered position still, the springs might be fine, but the values have changed. So now, in that neutral position, your character starts drifting off to the side or walking backwards or whatever the case may be.
The only ever time I've had stick drift, it's on the right stick. So the view always slowly shifts around. I have had that, but maybe that's just something about how I hold the controller too, that it's only ever on the right stick. I don't know.
Hall effect joysticks use an entirely different mechanism. They look and feel exactly the same because they're still spring-loaded. But to get that voltage, to get that value, they use permanent magnets. Now, okay, before you correct me, I know that even a permanent magnet is not technically forever permanent, but compared to a potentiometer, I think it's okay to call it that. So what happens is as we change the relative position of these permanent magnets, we get a voltage value that is never going to change. Of course, if it's attached to a crappy controller, we're not gonna care about that, so we'll definitely get some impressions there. But first, let's have a look.
So is the only reason that Xbox and PlayStation and those guys don't use this because it's more expensive? Or is it part of a conspiracy? Ooh. Where like PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo, they don't want controllers that last forever because then you only buy one. Because like how much more expensive could it possibly be? And I mean, how much is this controller? It's very pricey. Like, but how could it seriously be that bad? So $70 for the whole of it. So it can't be that much more expensive because it's the same price as those other controllers. So I just don't know what, like, is it really that much more expensive? Are their margins just smaller? I don't know.
What else is in the box? You get some stickers, you get some firmware updates, little manual. Ah yes, this matters a lot because there's a bit of complexity here. We get a nice little Type A to Type C flat charging cable. It's definitely USB 2. You can tell from the white color coding and the fact that most of the pins inside the Type C connector are missing. I'm actually not even sure if it does data. Nice. All right, it does do data. There's charging only USB-C cables. It's like, really? You had to save those fractions of a penny worth of copper? Next to the charging port, we've got a pairing button with accompanying 4 LED player indicator, just like you'd find on a Nintendo Switch. Then on the other side, we've got my first disappointment. I had really hoped, given that it is shaped exactly like an Xbox controller, that they might have found a way to work Xbox compatibility into the product, but unfortunately you need a third-party dongle like a Wingman in order to connect this thing to your Xbox. The good news is it does still have decent cross-platform compatibility. You can select either D or X input on Windows, depending on whether you're playing more retro games or if you just want it to be picked up automatically by modern games, that would be X input. You can select Android or iOS compatibility mode, or obviously Nintendo Switch, since it seems like their main target is Switch players who don't want to wear out their freaking joysticks. Because it's designed for the Switch, you'll find all the appropriate Nintendo specific buttons on the front. I did say I would touch on that later, as well as a 6-axis gyroscope inside that GuliKit claims will work just like in PC games with.
I wonder if that works, if you could route this as a Switch Pro controller and use it through your PC for something like Simu. Because then you could finally, like I realized with my Xbox controller, I can't complete like multiple puzzles in Breath of the Wild while emulating it because it doesn't have the like gyroscope. It's like, oh, that's a big oopsie. Huh. So maybe if you could like plug this in and tell Simu it's a Pro controller, maybe then it works.
Without any software configuration or dedicated utility. I am going to want to try that out. Oh, also it supports amiibo tapping. Those are still a thing?
Yes, so.
Okay, cool. I mean, yeah, action figures, right? Like, sure. It occurs to me we should probably have it. Oh my God, the ergonomics of the Switch Pro controller are not as good. The Switch Pro controller doesn't have analog triggers? I haven't played any Mario Kart this generation. What the actual Nintendo? And this thing is so expensive. I guess now's as good a time as any to talk about the price of the KingKong 2 Pro. It's $70 US, putting it right in line with first-party controllers in terms of pricing, and I would say pretty damn in line in terms of the build. That's ignoring the Hall effect joysticks too. Man, yeah, in line or better. Very little flex, good plastics. God, those are mushy shoulders. How do they get away with it? Charging as much as they do for first party. You hate, but at least they're not mushy. Here, try this thing. Yeah, like, I would take that over any one of these first party controllers. Soft triggers. Sorry, I realize I haven't even talked about D-pad is nothing special, especially after playing around with the GPD Win Max 2, which has like the Vita style D-pad. Stop trying to reinvent the D-pad. It's already been invented, okay? It's decent though. ABXY, decent length travel, not like super like wild clicky. Like remember those Xbox compatible Razer controllers they did for a bit that had those like hyper clicky ABXYs? Dbrand is apparently the sponsor for this video, and I've been asked to ask, what is Dbrand doing?
Dbrand sent us a game for us to play.
A game to play. Oh my God.
James is gonna join in too.
I've actually played this before and I'm really good at it.
So when the music stops, be not the last
I like how Dbrand is just like, whatever. Just have them play a game for their integration, whatever.
one to push a button.
That was a false alarm.
Caught me. You doing it again?
We're going until Linus gets shocked.
Okay. I guess
you get
that means
shocked
I
too?
won.
Yeah, we both did.
That's how good I am, baby.
That was it? That's the Dbrand integration as they zap me? I guess you can buy their stickers if you want. They make them for all kinds of products like tablets, phones, laptops, game consoles. They've got their dark plates for the PlayStation 5. You guys can check them out. They have a weird sense of humor. Ow, that.
See, like and now I'm like, oh, should I go check out Dbrand again? I actually do have, it's on my iPad upstairs. I use Dbrand. I have it on my iPad. It's great. I like them. Hard to apply, hard to put on, but they work.
Heard. Theoretically, it should work.
It is very overpriced, but the materials are very good and they are like very, very precisely cut. I have like my Steam Deck. It has a Dbrand skin on it that actually has like texture to it. It's the hexagon one. So yeah, I mean, I
Work just like
I love
a
me
native
some Dbrand.
Switch Pro controller. It even wakes the console, theoretically. Let's just cycle through the modes here. To be clear, I don't know that this is GuliKit's fault, but this has not been a great experience so far. Okay, let's go.
Come on, buddy.
I don't think that's the right. That's not the right one. If you look at the instructions, close the screen and select grip order.
Seriously? That's the one? No, because you have
Plus,
to...
minus for search.
What the fuck? It paired. Am I the idiot? Is that...
No one hears you. It's just a misunderstanding.
You know what? Now I get to embarrass myself in Breath of the Wild because I haven't touched this damn game in like 1,000 years. This feels great. I like this controller though. Gyroscope aside, I think that they could have a little less friction around the edge of the analog sticks. So I do notice a little bit of pull. I'd like to see them do better with that. I think they've got like a beauty ring, like a kind of accent around here that's causing a little bit of friction. I think it's the kind of thing that you could easily solve for yourself if you wanted to with like a little bit of like paraffin wax around the outside or something like that. You shouldn't have to do that. It should just be using Delrin or like some kind of self-lubricating material instead. So maybe for the KingKong 3 Pro, but ignoring that, man, do these ever feel good. The spring tension is great. And one of the benefits of Hall Effect joysticks I haven't even mentioned yet is that because of their excellent durability, the manufacturers can trust that zero will stay zero. So they tend to have much smaller dead zones. You can see I need to make only a slight, oh, see that? The slightest deflection of the joystick and Link starts walking. So your fine control, way better, which may not be as important on the left stick, but on the right stick for aiming, it's a big deal. It was immediately noticeable when I upgraded my Steam Deck to GuliKit joysticks. Oh, I guess now's as good a time to mention these. This is really cool.
Yeah, does anybody know if the Elite uses the same old school joysticks? The cheap ones? Or does it use the nice ones?
Unlike the major first-party controllers, GuliKit provides replacement mechanical buttons. So these are for your ABXYs, as well as keycaps. And I don't think they have replacement joysticks yet for this particular controller. Maybe they are confident that they will never die, but they do offer replacement joysticks for the Steam Deck. So I would hope that either those are compatible with their own controller or that they plan to offer replacement ones themselves in the future. I love seeing additional repairability, make it
Elite uses potentiometers. Do the Scuffs use potentiometers as well? It'd be really funny if the Elite controllers for like competitive play use the cheap ones.
its way into the electronics space.
So they have additional sticks.
They have the sticks themselves, but not the joystick box. That's hilarious. Talk about confident. Man, why don't we try out the gyroscope in one of the PC titles that they claim it will just magically work in? Now seems like as good a time as any to talk about some of the other functions of the controller. By using this gear button, they call it like AI button. I don't know, it doesn't seem very AI to me, but it definitely does some cool stuff. You can swap.
The Edge. GuliKit is making hall effects for the Edge. I mean, like, my whole thing with the Edge is that I went into it hoping to have a similar usability to my Elite Series 2. I mainly love the paddles on the back and the improved build quality. I don't feel like this thing is built significantly better. It's built better than the regular DualSense, but it's not built way better. And like the cheap plasticky, like the glossy plastic looks like ass. Looks like shiny ass. And the hot swappable joysticks, like I said, I almost never have problems with stick drift or anything. So that's never really been a big appeal to me. And then like the function tabs on the bottom, the edge buttons, which this thing is named after, are totally useless for me. I haven't, like, a single time I've not found a use case for them. It just seems like a total waste of time. You hold it down and then you press like X, square, circle, triangle, whatever, and you can route commands to it. It's like a total waste to me. I would much rather have 4 paddles on the back like the Elite and just reroute these buttons onto that. Way prefer that, because then I can still have my thumb on the right joystick and be hitting, you know, X, square, circle, triangle. But with this, it doesn't actually save that. So it just feels like a really expensive DualSense.
Back here, but you're playing a Nintendo or a PlayStation game, then you can just do what's natural for you, although it'll definitely cause some confusion if you have to do any kind of button mashing QuickTime events, I would think. You can set up basic repeat macros, so by holding the gear button and then pressing any of the right shoulder, trigger, or ABXY, you can have them repeat up to 20 activations per second. It has this really weird thing, like autopilot or something like that, where you can pretty much record and then replay like long, it's like up to 10 minutes or something like that, right? Like long strings of inputs. And this is meant for fine tuning the repeatability of, like, say for example, some kind of speed run. I don't know that that's necessarily in the spirit of speed running, depending on how you're doing it, but I know that there are.
Could also be really useful for people like cheating in games, couldn't it? Because couldn't you just route like different commands? Like if you didn't know, like if you were really bad at slide canceling or something in Call of Duty, couldn't you just route the button inputs into a macro and then just play the macro every time you want to slide cancel? Seems a little toxic. Or like what I thought when he was talking about long repeated inputs, I was thinking like, okay, it's one of those games where you're running around and you just need to like keep the game open and let it just keep chugging, like in those simulation games, you know? So you just have it so it just holds the right stick, or it thinks it's holding the right stick for an extended period of time, or left stick for an extended period of time, so it doesn't think you're AFK. Something like that. I could see that getting tricky. He took my thing!